Hey, how's it going? My name is Miss Troy, and here is my online lesson overview welcome video. Throughout this video, I'm going to talk about what we're going to be learning throughout this 1 week lesson, the technology that is involved in the lesson, as well as what I expect from you as a student and what you should expect from me as a teacher, and just some other helpful general information. Again, my name is Miss Troy, and our online lesson is going to be on geometric transformation for 8th graders. I'm not going to read all of these learning objectives. These will be accessible through our online platform, but this is just so you know, these are the 4 main learning objectives that I have kept in mind as I have planned my activities, my assessments. These are our goals by the end of the week. So in general, and I'm going to go over the content that's being learned this week, but in general, you'll notice a common theme is being able to identify whether that's points around the coordinate grid and being able to perform the 4 main types of transformations. And these transformations, just knowing the vocabulary of rigid, non-rigid, similar and congruent figures, and how that relates to our 4 main types of transformations. And here are the 4 types of transformations. And again, the big title transformations just means how a shape might be changing its positioning or its size. And with these transformations, there are 4 specific types, which is reflections, rotations, translations, and dilations. So that seems like a lot for a week, but they really do relate to one another and really come together in a very nice way when we are learning about all the different types of transformations that that happen with our shapes and our figures and on our coordinate grid. So reflecting is when we mirror the shape, rotating is when we turn a shape, translating is moving a shape, and dilating is resizing the shape. Now just to go a little bit more in depth, and again, this is just to provide you an overview of what you're going to be seeing this week so it doesn't feel maybe completely new. And this is stuff that you probably learned about a little bit, maybe more briefly in 7th grade. So this should connect to what you have learned and will connect to what you will be learning. And I'll be talking about that throughout this video. Anyway, so reflections, like I said, is when you have a mirror image. And so we'll be talking about a bunch of different types of reflections. You can see here on the screen, there's an x-axis, y-axis, origin, and y equals x reflection, which you'll be learning about through the lesson activities. I'm not going to go through a specific example for every single type of reflection because you'll be doing that throughout the week. But this is the type of pattern you're going to be seeing when you're learning about these types of reflections and how you perform them. So I kind of gave you an example. I really like the systematic step-by-step. So a good step 1 in general, you can apply to all the transformations, is write down the coordinates of your original shape. And then number 2, you're going to apply the correct rule. So for this example, I'm showing you a reflection over the y-axis. So the rule you can see in parentheses is negative xy, which means we negate the x. And then step 3 is once you correctly follow the rule, write down your new points and that transformation is complete. So again, this is just one small example of what you can really apply to a bunch of other examples as you learn throughout this week. Again, rotations is when you change the position of a shape without changing its side. So there's a bunch of different rotations with a lot of rules that you're going to learn. You can take the time now to pause the video and read through the fine print of this slide. But overall, the big idea is that rotations is where you're changing the location in a specific way. You'll see a lot throughout your lessons is this idea of about the origin. And about the origin really just means that the origin, that 0.00, is sort of our focus point. When you go to high school and take geometry, or even in college and take geometry, you're going to learn how to rotate, or I should say even in general, perform transformations not necessarily about the origin. So that's just sort of thinking ahead and how what you're learning this week in this class is going to apply outside of our experience, because you're going to need to use this again. So just when you see that terminology about the origin, possibly over and over again, just know that's because you're going to learn something a little bit more complex later down the road. And for our purposes in 8th grade, as we're just getting familiar and introduced to these topics, about the origin is just sort of as far as we go with that. Again, the third type of transformation we're going to be looking at is translation. And this one just simply means you're just moving it to a different location. So you might move it 5 units up and 7 to the right. So that one I think is pretty straightforward. And lastly, we're going to learn about dilation. So dilations is when you change the physical size of the shape. So it's a little bit different than the other three, because the other three, they don't change the size of the shape. It stays the same size. It might just move around in a specific way, where dilation, it might be getting bigger or smaller. And again, throughout the lesson, you'll learn about how to perform that and what more specifically goes along with dilations. I always think it's helpful to connect what we're learning not only to what you're going to do later on in life, as I mentioned with the origin terminology, you're going to use that in high school, but also how math is really everywhere, and it does connect to the real world so much. So I kind of provided these little funny pictures of how you can see transformation. So reflection, I brush my teeth in the mirror and I see my reflection. That's literally a really big idea in math. Rotations you can see by my image. We have something like a carnival game or ride, I should say. Translation can be simply just running around, like you can see with this funny baseball picture. And then dilation can be when you go and get your eyes dilated when you're trying to get new glasses or something along that way. So again, what we're doing is really important to your success in high school and even beyond, and it's also really relevant in our everyday lives. Next, I'm going to discuss the technology that we're going to be using throughout our online course. So we're going to be using a lot of different technology. Just to name a few, we're going to be primarily focusing on Desmos, Flipgrid, quizzes, Schoology, Google Forms, Quizlet, and Edpuzzle. Don't fret if you've never heard of any of these, you don't know what a lot of these are. I will provide tutorial videos on how to work with these in a specific place on Schoology, which I will talk about later on in this video. So using Schoology, if you don't know what that is, you're going to get really comfortable with it quite quickly, because this is what we're going to use for everything. So here's my page. We have all of the days and all of the contents folders laid out in a really organized way. So day 1, we're focusing, for example, just on translations, and that is it, nothing else. So everything is going to be grouped together very specifically, and you'll have access to all of this at any time. I just want to point out too that the introduction is going to have some things that you need to complete, as well as the feedback folder has a Google Forms survey on your experience with me as an instructor and your experience with this online class. Continuing to use Schoology, so if you go in to any one of those folders for the day 1 through day 4, you'll find 3 different things: a folder with instructional material, our discussion post, and our quiz post. So every day you're going to go into the instructional material, which I'll show you what's in there in just a moment. You'll go through some of the activities. Then you will use the Flipgrid and post and for this example, the translation discussion and answer the question. And then you will take a quick 4-question quiz on each day. And again, the purpose of that is simply for me to make sure that you are meeting the objectives. And then if you're not, or if you are, I can provide to you meaningful feedback through these tools. And then if you click on the instructional material, you'll see I have a folder with videos, notes, and activities. So videos, I try to be really specific about what is in each of those videos. Notes is 2 different types of readings on the topic. And then the activities is a Desmos activity, a Quizlet, and a quizzes activity. Again, if you need help, I am trying to be very accessible and provide you lots of tools to obtain that help. So if you go into the questions folder, you will see I have a questions discussion board on Flipgrid that I will be checking consistently. So please feel free to post any of your questions, and maybe a classmate can even answer before I see. Additionally, see at the bottom I have a folder with digital tool video tutorials, and it has every technology that we're using with a helpful video there, which will hopefully clear things up. As you can see, we're using Desmos a lot, and I have evaluated it with my technology tool evaluation, and I give it a 23 out of 24. It is really, really effective and really helpful in having students understand in a fun way the content that is desired, right? So with our transformations, it's really helpful. We're going to use this a lot. The only thing I gave it a 3 instead of a 4 on was the instructional support material. And that's simply just because it's a little confusing to figure out. So I myself even had to watch a couple tutorial videos to get the hang of it. But once you do, it's really effective, really easy to use, and has really great connections to what we're doing. The collaboration tool we're going to be using, as I mentioned, is Flipgrid. So on Flipgrid, we will be daily doing a discussion post. We'll be responding to peers, putting in our own thoughts, and it'll be really helpful and kind of an informal way for me to see how you're doing and what you're thinking. Our communication tool, or one of the ones I wanted to highlight since we're using it every day, is Google Forms. So like I said, there's going to be an assessment every single day. And this is really to communicate to me what you are learning, even though you're not physically right in front of me. Then if you're not doing so great, I will reach out to you individually and provide some feedback. If you're doing awesome, then I will also, again, give you that feedback individually. So this is a way that we're going to be able to communicate and know how we're doing and how we're feeling about the course, even though, again, we're not physically together. Lastly, I just wanted to give you all some reminders. So please be respectful, especially keep in mind with that discussion post. We can all be reading each other's thoughts and posting, so we just want to be respectful. Don't plagiarize or copy. Complete assignments on time, and again, refer to the syllabus for specifics. The syllabus, as I mentioned, can be found in the introduction folder, so all of that is there. Please utilize all of the resources. So online course should not feel isolating at all. I have tried to provide a lot of opportunities for you to feel connected to me and to your classmates. So utilize the discussion board, email me for help. And lastly, and most importantly, have fun and learn a lot. So take advantage of all of the resources that I have supplied to you. I try to give a lot of different options so you can choose what seems interesting and meaningful to you. And again, use my questions folder. It has a lot of information on there if you feel a little bit stuck or confused with the technology or the content. That is my online lesson overview. I hope you found this helpful. Again, please reach out if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. And I'm really looking forward to getting to work with you all.